Welcome back to Fantasy Football by Committee, powered by Flurry Sports. It can be tough to win a fantasy league on your own, but at FFBC, we will work together to bring home the hardware. Hosted by Zach Brunner and the rest of the Flurry Sports crew, we will give top-level analysis, answer your questions, and, well, go off on other tangents.
That was after I tried to get ChatGPT to admit that 9/11 was an inside job, but it stood firm. It gave quite a few solid points that it was true.
Welcome to Fantasy Football by Committee. The show starts in 3, 2, 1.
What's up, everybody? Committee of One once again. Zach Brunner here. Let's get you some ad drop waiver wire news, eh? Hopefully you escaped week 1 with a win. Not everybody did. I think I got a win in pretty much every league except for one, and it was the Xavier Worthy curse. Barely lost and had Xavier Worthy, so that was no fun. Hopefully you guys had some better luck. Hopefully you avoided Bengals, avoided Dolphins. We'll see if we are in for a bounce back this week. I think there's a decent chance, at least for Cincinnati. For Miami, I mean, I picked them preseason to be the first overall draft pick for a reason. I think that team is going down the shitter. And they have a tough matchup this week against the Patriots. Bengals, we'll see. But yeah, we're just talking about some fantasy football stuff, going over some of the news, going over some of the biggest pickups, the biggest waiver wire ads to make. If you have questions about anything, not just waiver wire news, definitely ask away. But obviously questions about who to pick up, who you feel like you can drop. Those are big ones right now. Maybe some trade questions, maybe stuff like that. Definitely ask away. We're just hanging out here. I think normally there will be some other people, and I know next week you won't have me. I will be at a concert. So unfortunately, this is the last Tuesday with me for a second, but no worries, because as you saw yesterday, Monday afternoons, we do a fantasy football show, going over snap counts, going over some of the biggest headlines, the injuries, obviously. We do that Monday afternoon right here, wherever you're watching this. Just know it's right here live as well. On Wednesday nights, tomorrow night, no fantasy, but it's a Lombardi sweep. We have a Green Bay Packers show, and obviously this week is bigger because we have a Thursday night football game with the Packers and the Commanders. So tune in for that. There's fantasy goodness, betting goodness, stuff like that in there as well. But it's a show about the Packers. It's not about fantasy, but there's fantasy nuggets to take away. Thursday night, that's the big one. That's what I need you guys there for. That's going to be the party, right? An hour-ish before Thursday night football, we go live all the way up until Thursday night football, answering your start-sit questions. If you have trade questions, anything like that, we are hanging out. We're watching the news. Last week, we had that weird Jaden Blue scratch, which seems like could be a pattern at this point, but we were not expecting that. But we'll be watching the news. We'll be answering your start-sit questions, answering any kind of fantasy questions that you have leading up to Thursday night football on Thursdays. Also on Thursday, you get Luke's Survivor Pool video on the Flurry Sports YouTube channel. So definitely go subscribe over there if you are not quite yet. We also have a YouTube channel, Fantasy Football by Committee, where we post some fantasy videos there as well. A couple of them posted yesterday. More coming probably tonight. I can only assume tonight. Obviously, I'll be doing rankings. So as I sit here waiting for some of y'all to ask some questions, obviously, a lot of people know me for my rankings. Finished quite well last year. Top 10, number 6 overall for in-season. Top 10 for draft. Top 5 for wide receivers. Top 5 for running backs. I think top 5 for kickers as well, if that counts. But we have fantasy football rankings dropping Wednesday mornings over on flurrysports.org. IDP rankings dropping over there as well. So go to flurrysports.org to read a bunch of articles, including the waiver wire article, which we can talk about a little bit. I did not write this one. This one was written by Henry. This is a good article. A lot of good waiver wire news to go over. And as you can see here, this is, if you want to go to Fantasy Football by Committee, you don't even need to go there. Just hover over this and subscribe, and just know you're going to get more awesome fantasy stuff showing up on your homepage. That is fantastic news for you, helping you win your league. But yes, go to flurrysports.org. You'll get my rankings there tomorrow. every single Wednesday, and you get a bunch of other fantasy articles. We got a streamers articles for different positions coming out tomorrow. Yep. So all those positions, those are coming out tomorrow. So hopefully, writers, if you're listening to this and haven't written that yet, get on your shit, write your articles. Thursday, we got the start sit articles. Last week, I wrote all 4 of those. I'm probably writing all 4 of those this week as well. So lots of content going up on Flurry Sports. But let's talk about some of the biggest waiver wire ads. What Henry did here is we're only including players who are owned in 50% or fewer of ESPN fantasy leagues. Now, if you're watching me and you're watching this, chances are you play on Sleeper or you play on something like that. ESPN may seem like the boomer platform, and you may be right. However, it's the most popular platform, so that's what we use. And it's a lot of casuals platform, right? Sleeper is more of the sharps. ESPN might be more of the casuals or the people who haven't adapted yet. They've been running their leagues forever. Regardless, that's what we use. But just know players like Dylan Sampson, for example, he is owned in 32% of ESPN fantasy leagues. And I think that is about 50% even on Sleeper. So quite a big difference. So even if you're not reading our articles, I think you should. But if you're reading somebody else's articles, just so you know, take a look at where those ownership percentages come from, because it really, really depends depending on where, obviously, the site is that we are taking it from. But let's start with quarterbacks. I don't think you need to rush to pick up any quarterback almost ever, but especially this week. Henry wrote 2 here. I think they're a respectable 2. We got Michael Penix Jr., Daniel Jones. I don't think Daniel Jones is necessarily a fluke. I think the 2 rushing touchdowns is, and obviously that was a big part of his fantasy day. But I think he fits this offense. I've been a truther for a long time, so it was a little bit validating. That was good. But he finally has an offensive line. He has some weapons. I think Daniel Jones will be pretty good this year. Will he be as good as he was week 1? Almost definitely not. But I think he's pretty good. So if you are in the market for a quarterback who can do anything, obviously if you have Brock Purdy, maybe you need to pick up somebody. I think Daniel Jones is good. I would put him ahead of Michael Penix. Again, Michael Penix is one of those. I hate when fantasy people do this and they label people my guys. I love Michael Penix Jr. I'm a big fan. Had him on my college fantasy championship team when he was with Washington. I'm a big fan. I don't know if you need to pick him up. I think he's going to be fine for fantasy this year. I don't think he's going to be outstanding. And then, I mean, there's a real possibility that he misses both Drake London and Darnell Mooney next week. Whether he misses them or not, he plays the Vikings, which I also do not like. So I don't think you need to rush to pick up Michael Penix whatsoever. If I'm picking up one of these guys, I'm picking up Daniel Jones. And in fact, if I have Brock Purdy, I think I'd rather have Mac Jones next week than Michael Penix Jr. Obviously, watch my rankings. Tomorrow, I will not be ranking Mac Jones as if he's playing, just so you know, or as if he's starting. I'm not ranking him that way. But just so you know, if Purdy's ruled out, and even though George Kittle is out, even though Juwan Jennings might be out, even though Brandon Ayuk obviously is starting out, I think I'd still have Mac Jones and Michael Penix next week. And Cross, definitely taking questions. Any and all questions, fire them away, and I got you. But yeah, I don't think you need to do anything crazy at quarterback this week. If you are a league that needs to include fab, I wouldn't offer any meaningful fab. I don't think there's a quarterback who is out there who is unowned that you're rushing to pick up. Okay, this is in terms of ownership. So let's just say, I don't know, maybe JJ McCarthy's out there. I thought JJ McCarthy was good, and I think he has obviously he started bad, but I think he showed in the 4th quarter more of what he is, and I think he is going to be pretty good next week. So Again, I think you should go pick him up. I think he's worth picking up. But if I miss out, I'm not upset. I don't think. Depends on the league size, depends on league format. 2 quarterback leagues, obviously everything changes, right? But for the most part, not a big deal. LN, what's up? We got, would you drop Goddard for Fannin? I'm assuming yes. I mean, I think you're assuming wrong. I don't, it's not clear, at least. I like Fannin a lot, liked him preseason, and I know the Browns love him. I mean, that's essentially yesterday what I said. I like him a lot, and I know the Browns like him even more. However, I think his role is going to be a little bit inconsistent, a little bit iffy to start here. And the Eagles' passing offense just was nothing last week, just because that's what the Cowboys gave them. I think they'll get better. I think Goddard will get better. I do think I want Fannin more, but I don't think it's such a clear upgrade where it's like I need to do it, or I feel like it was a huge victory to do it. I'm not dropping a ton of fab to make this upgrade. I would do it, but yeah, I don't think it's a must get, if that makes sense. And if it doesn't, tell me I'm stupid and to explain myself more. Cross got 2 offers, A-Chain and Mahomes for Genty and Hurts or Chase Brown. Okay, 2 offers. Boom. A-Chain and Mahomes for Genty and Hurts. That's interesting. Or Chase Brown for Genty straight up. I hate position for position trades. Would I take either of those offers? I would. So you were offered A-Chain and Mahomes. I wouldn't do that. Or Chase Brown for Genty straight up. For sure not doing the first one. I'm interested in the second one. If it's PPR, it makes it a little bit better. But I think I'm not pulling the trigger yet. I'm still waiting. I think I'd rather have Genty for now. It feels like a wash to me, and I just hate single position for single position trades. Like, it just feels weird. So I think I'm holding off. First one's a no for sure for me, and then the second one, if you really prefer Chase Brown, if you like him as a player, if you're a Bengals fan, if anything like that, do that trade for sure, because they're basically even for me right now. So if that's the case, I feel a little bit better about Genty holding up than Chase Brown. And that's the very, very, very slight tiebreaker for me right now. Very slight. But if you have a player preference between the two, go with the player that you want to cheer for. And yeah, no problem. Okay, we talked about quarterbacks, and we talked about how there really isn't much there. Let's talk about running backs. And again, I don't really think there's much there. What I will say, and this is a video on Fantasy Football by Committee that I did. So if you want to go watch this, whether you go to this article on flurrysports.org and subscribe, or if you just go to the YouTube channel and subscribe, watch this, watch some of these other videos. Essentially what I say is I'm a big Dylan Sampson fan, and I think what he did in week 1 is safe. I don't think he's going to catch 8 passes each week, but his role as a third down guy, a change of pace guy, that's safe when Judkins comes back. Judkins is going to come back and get eased into it, but he's going to take on the exact same role that he had at Ohio State. At Ohio State, if you don't know, it was Judkins and Trevion Henderson. I do this every time. Trevion Henderson. So Judkins is going to be the early down. He's going to be the hammer. He's going to be the thunder. And Dylan Sampson's going to come in and be the lightning. And he is going to be very good. Very good. I think the rest of the way. I think his touchdown upside is low. This is another article I wrote that I think you definitely need to go check out. So flurrysports.org. I'll link this in the chat right now. I have all the notable snap counts from week 1 with analysis. So for this game in particular, Dylan Sampson played 33 snaps out of 76. I think that is safe rest of season, in my opinion. Fannin played 55 of 76. I think that's relatively safe as well. But yeah, definitely I'll link this in the chat right now. This is an article you should go and save, reference, all of the above. You should see that now on everywhere but Facebook. That didn't go through on Facebook for some reason. There it goes. A lot of good information here. Every single game, notes, snap counts, analysis. Go and read that. But yeah, if I'm picking up one running back this week, I assume it's Dylan Sampson. Let's take a look at ESPN ownership really quick. Since I didn't write the article, I didn't look at this ownership. So this is just live reacting to this. I mean, Charbonnet is owned in, available in 30% of leagues. I suppose take a look just in case. Trey Benson looked good. He's available in half of leagues. If you have an empty bench spot, feel free to add somebody like Trey Benson or Braylon Allen, who are very clear handcuffs, who are very, very clearly going to be good if the starter goes down. Tootin, I guess, technically moves up the depth chart here, owned in 42% of ESPN leagues. I'm very willing to add him. My expectations are low. I don't think he's going to do a ton soon unless ETN gets hurt. But ETN's being used as a bell cow for some reason that escapes me, and I don't think he's going to hold up. So if that's the case, then I think Tootin's going to see more snaps sooner rather than later. So again, if you have a bench spot, go ahead and add him. Tyler Algier got very involved. Limited snaps, but still 10 carries. Wasn't super efficient, but he's going to be a short yardage guy. He's going to touch the football. And he's probably going to vulture a bunch of touchdowns. And we know what Tyler Algier is without Bijan Robinson. It's what Tyler Algier was his rookie season. That was a 1,000-yard back. So one of the better handcuffs in the league, Tyler Algier, keep him on your radar. If nothing else, find him and click the little watch list icon, which I don't know where it is on ESPN. Shouldn't it be right here? Oh, interested in? Oh, because he's not available. Duh. He's not on waivers in this league. If he's on waivers, put him on your watch list. Never know. Otherwise, I'm not overly excited about the running back position this week. It doesn't really matter. I'm not going out for Manon guy. I don't really care about Giddens, even though Jonathan Taylor did escape injury. So that's a little interesting. He saw 12 carries. He was okay with them. Again, keep him on your radar. The issue becomes he plays the Broncos, and then he plays the Titans. Two tough matchups. The Rams aren't very easy either. So don't love the matchups ahead there. Miles Sanders is the RB2. Maybe he sees more carries. Probably not. That's about it. That is about it for running backs. If you have any running back questions, feel free to ask. Baxter, do you think Dalton Kincaid can be a steady tight end one, or is the usage just too low? It's too low. He will not be a steady tight end one. He didn't even lead the Bills in snaps at the position. Kincaid is what he is. Whoops. Hit the wrong button there. But looking at, look how few snaps he had 42 out of the 85 snaps in a passing situation. They were chasing points the entire game, and he didn't even play half the snaps. So if the Bills start dominating, I assume that share is going to go down even more. I'm not a Dalton Kincaid guy, so for sure take that with a grain of salt. But I just don't think his role in this offense is important. I think he's a good player. I think if they wanted to feature him, they potentially could, but they don't want to, they don't need to, and they're not going to. So he's going to be, you're hoping for a touchdown, essentially. Worth dropping. I have Goddard. I would for sure trade him over dropping him. He has value. He has name value, and he had a good first week. So you can for sure get something for him. And I would be very excited to do that. If you could pair Kincaid with a RB3 and get an RB2, or if you pair him with an RB4 and get an RB3, you know what I mean? Pair him with somebody to upgrade that position. I think you can definitely do that. You can get somebody to bite at tight end. Look for your George Kittle owner in your league, honestly. Find the George Kittle owner, give them Kincaid and somebody else, upgrade a position on your bench, and away you go. Am I still here? If I'm not here, let me know. Otherwise, Restream is giving me something very weird. I'm going to switch off of this really quick. If I'm here and I'm just panicking about nothing, let me know that too. But Restream is flashing all these messages at me as if something is not working. And I'm inclined to believe them. Oh, no, it looks like it's working. So Restream is just dumb. Cool. Good to know. Actually, what it does tell me is I don't like this either. It shows I'm live and I'm good, but it shows the chat isn't working. Why would the chat not be working if I'm live? I appreciate you, Kyle. Okay, I can see that now. Yeah, I looked on X too, and it showed I was live, but then it said there's no chat. This platform, man. Okay. Anyway, appreciate you for letting me know, by the way. Okay. Let's get back to Sharp's got a question. We should answer Sharp's question. You were offered Connor and Waddle for ETN. Assuming you don't have to drop anybody important, I would accept that. I think Connor is better than ETN on a week-by-week basis. Like, I just don't trust what ETN just did. And I know that they just traded away Tank Bigsby to validate the performance he just did. However, ETN is not a bell cow. He's just, how much does ETN weigh? Is he 200 pounds? I just typed in ETN, so hopefully that pops something up. 215 pounds, I think that's generous. Like, he's not a bell cow. They're using him as a bell cow. What does that lead to, folks? That leads to injuries. So I think I would prefer James Conner. I don't have a strong opinion on Waddle. Like, I'm not trading for Waddle to start him, hopefully. So it fully depends on who you have to drop. They're giving you two people. You have to drop somebody. Do not drop anybody worthwhile to make this trade. However, I think I still prefer Connor to ETN rest of season a little bit. And because of that, I'm taking that. Kayshawn Booty pickup. How much fab have May in Superflex League as my second? Wouldn't mind the stack. Yeah. I don't think Henry wrote up Kayshawn Booty, but I like him. I think his role is pretty solid. He's a good player. I think Diggs' role is going to grow a little bit. But I do think you can go pick up Kayshawn Booty. I think I listed him for members when I was just typing out players I like. I think for receivers, I said Marquise Brown, obviously. He's number one for everybody. Marquise Brown needs to be owned. But then I think for receivers, it's Brown, Johnston, and then he's in the mix. I think I would go Kelvin Austin and then Booty, but I think that's the order. So I think he does need to be owned at the very least as a speculative ad. I'm not sure if I'm starting him this week. But I wouldn't overpay for him. If you have $100 budget, I'm not sure if I'd pay over 5 at this point, 5 to 10. I don't think he's a must pick up. I think there's other guys in New England who are just as good as he is. So if that's the case, I imagine it's going to be inconsistent, sort of a rotating cast there. So I'd like to pick him up. I'd like to have him. It's more speculation than anything. So don't overpay. Would be dropping Bateman or Mims for him. I think I would drop Mims if I have to. And because you have somebody like Mims, who is an upside guy, he's competing for that wide receiver 2 spot. I think him and Franklin split pretty much evenly for snaps. So I don't know how much you're gaining with Booty. So I wouldn't bid very much. Like, I don't think you need to go crazy because I don't think it's that big of an upgrade. And then Hollywood rental. I mean, he's not really a rental at this point. I get that, but you're telling me he's a rental for a minimum of 5 more weeks. And in 5 weeks, who knows what the hell is going on? And I'm not even referencing Xavier Worthy at this point. I think Worthy doesn't go on IR. There's people saying he's going on IR. I don't think that's the case. But we know Rashee Rice is already gone. So if Rashee Rice is already gone for 5 more weeks, then we know Brown's going to be elevated on the depth chart for at least 5 more weeks. 4 weeks? Isn't I think you're referencing Worthy and I'm referencing Rice. If we're even like I was saying Marquise Brown needed to be owned last week when Worthy was healthy. So now that Worthy's not healthy, I mean, it's just, goes through the roof as we saw in the game. So Hollywood is a must own. He's never been that good. I agree. And this is me saying it does not matter. Opportunity is too big. Opportunity leads to productivity in fantasy football. There's been a lot of very, very bad football players who have won people a lot of weeks. I think one of the first things I ever did as a fantasy football creator was lose my mind at how bad of a football player Latavius Murray is. And I'll take that to my grave. He just retired this year. He had a much longer career than he should have, than he deserved to, and than I thought he would have. But he had multiple stints of fantasy relevance that he did not deserve. He is one of the worst football players I've ever seen in my life. But you know what? He's relevant. And we're talking about other people who are not good at football too. Kyle Pitts is still on a lot of teams. He's not very good. He's not good. There's a lot of receivers who are just not good at football. I mean, we can look at them here. Marquise Brown does not matter. If you get 10 plus targets, you're relevant. How good at football is DK Metcalf? I think he's a very, very good athlete. I don't think he's that great of a football player. You can argue with me about that, but I am correct about that one. Cooper Kupp didn't play very well. I would argue he's not that good of a football player anymore either, and I don't think anyone would disagree with that one. Juwan Jennings, how good of a football player is he versus his opportunity there? Adam Thielen at this point. Cedric Tillman, he's not that outstanding. Christian Kirk obviously is not any good anymore. Yeah, you get the point. So let's say it's 5 weeks. What's your bid? I'm bidding a quarter of my salary of my fab. Because at this point, and I'm not a Marquise Brown fan, but the Chiefs need him. So like if he's a must start for 5 more weeks, cool. And what's to say something else doesn't happen? Rashee Rice is coming off of an injury. Xavier Worthy's already hurt. The other receiver there is Juju. He could get hurt. Could they trade for Tyreek Hill and then this is all a wash? Absolutely. But we got pretty much nothing to go off of right now. So I would like to have Marquise Brown. He's the only player on waivers this week where I feel like I need to put in a bid. I need to go get him. There's nobody like even Quentin Johnston. I doubt. I'm very skeptical on Quentin Johnston. Marquise Brown. There's no fluke with targets. There just isn't. Sharp. Sorry, I didn't get this earlier. The bottom two guys on your bench for dropping with that trade would be Downs or Keenan Allen, which I don't love. But still. So essentially the trade is James Conner and Waddle for ETN and Josh Downs. And I think I would hold off just because I think you can get more. But I don't hate it. So if you are a James Conner fan or Jalen Waddle fan, go for it. But I think you can get it. I think there's going to be, I think there's going to be more good ETN weeks before he gets hurt or before the workload completely shifts. So I think we can get another good week out of him, another couple good weeks out of him, high workload. And then, I mean, his stock's just going to go up. If he can validate himself one more week, ETN's going to have a lot of value because people want him to be good. So the fact that he's actually good, great. Cam Daddy is in a 10-team half PPR, 3 top 10 running backs. Wide receiver and quarterback is tough. I have Bo Nix, Ladd, McLaurin, and Golden. Would you blow Fab to get Herbert or Fields? Also Hollywood or Pittman, other waiver wide receivers. Okay, so your receivers are Ladd, McLaurin, and Golden. So, I mean, how many receivers do you have to start? Do you have to start 3? Or is it 2 running back, 2 wide receiver, 2 flex, or 1 flex, where you're putting a running back in your flex regardless? Because if you're putting a running back in your flex and you are probably not going to start anybody over Ladd and McLaurin, then that changes everything. You don't really need to spend a ton, right? It doesn't really matter. I would go for Hollywood over Pittman. I think Pittman's better long-term. I think Hollywood's better for the next month. So, we're living month by month at this point. How much fab would I spend? Maybe a quarter on Hollywood if I have to do it. Would I rather have Herbert or Fields? I would rather have Herbert. Just because I saw how Justin Fields played and I saw how the Jets played. And boy, they play no players on offense and they're extremely physical. So that offense is going to be picked off one by one by one. Just watch. But I would go Herbert and I wouldn't spend much fab. Like, I don't think it matters. Start 2 wide receiver. You have Saquon, Taylor, and Kyron. So that's good. You got Worthy hurt. Godwin on IR. And not actual IR, like in your IR spot. So Godwin could be back as early as maybe week 3, I would say. Probably not wanting to start him right away, but he could be back. So, yeah, I'm not going crazy. Reed, Booty, Tillman also on waivers. Yeah, don't want Jaden Reed. Booty's good. I think he's interesting. And Tillman's solid. Like, as long as Joe Flacco's there, as long as Isaiah Bond doesn't emerge suddenly, I think Tillman's pretty good. So because Tillman's there, Booty is still speculation, but I do think he's going to be pretty good. Not outstanding, but I think he's going to be pretty good, inconsistent. So I wouldn't spend a ton, to be honest. You're not starting anybody over McLaurin at this point. I'm okay going after Pittman or Tillman, and I would spend a little bit. They're good depth. We know Pittman and Tillman are going to be fine every single week at this point in terms of plugging into the starting lineup because their quarterback situation got better now. So we're fine there. And Godwin's coming back. If Godwin returns somewhat close to normal, then Godwin's going to be over any person you pick up right now anyway. So yeah, I wouldn't panic. I would look to add. I would look to improve, but I'm not selling the future for a week 2 add. Starting Hollywood over Pickens or Devontae Smith or JCM in the flex. Yes, all of the above. All of the above. I don't think Devontae Smith is particularly good for fantasy. This week, we know the Eagles are going to throw more just because that's what they do. Whenever they don't throw the football, they throw it the next week. But, I mean, Devontae Smith, at best, is an inconsistent player. So if his best is, I don't know if I should start him, then we're probably not going to start him. Pickens, I think, is pretty good. JCM, I think, is very, very, very iffy for this week. We know the Commanders are going to run the football against the Packers. That's how you beat this Packers defense. And it's a short week, so it's going to be a simplified game plan. So we know they're going to run the football. I don't think JCM is very good if he doesn't score a touchdown. And we are betting on a lot for him to score a touchdown. Not just this week, but overall. So assuming you get points for receptions, even if it's half, I think I would go Brown. Boom. It sounds like I'm so all in on Brown too. It's just the people we're kind of throwing out here. You'll see in my rankings tomorrow. I assume I haven't done them yet. Again, I'm not a Marquise Brown guy. I'm just an opportunity guy here. So I'm not putting all my faith into Marquise Brown. I'm just acknowledging the opportunity he has ahead of him here. Do you think I should trade A.J. Brown? This feels like a panic already. Trade A.J. Brown and Aaron Jones for Drake London. Do you think I do the same for Nico Collins? Interesting. You would have to be loaded at running back for me to make either trade. I'll start with that. Aaron Jones is a good football player. He's going to play better than he did in week 1. He caught a big touchdown, obviously, but he'll run better than he did in week 1. The Bears are a good defense. So better days ahead for Aaron Jones, I think. We know better days ahead for both Nico and A.J. Brown here. I'm not trading for Drake London just because he's already hurt. There's no point with the other two receivers here we're talking about. So if you're loaded at running back, I would consider doing it for Nico, but I think I'm holding strong. Mind going into more detail about Harold Fannin Jr.? Yeah, I think he's an extremely solid player, super athletic. So in a similar way to how Indianapolis is using Warren, where they can just kind of move him wherever and just say, hey, no matter the play, Fannin's going to be like this number 2 read. You know, you got the play for the number 1, and then if the number 1 isn't open, you know, Flacco, if you turn your head, Fannin's coming into the play here. They kind of do that a lot with Harold Fannin, it seems like so far. So I think he's going to play a ton of snaps. He can get moved all over the formation, including in the backfield. He can take carries, and he's too good for the Browns not to use him all over, considering the Browns aren't very talented. So I like him. I do think it's going to be a little inconsistent to start. And if the Browns are bad, which we can only assume they will be, right? I think there's a real possibility David Njoku gets traded. And if Njoku gets traded and all of a sudden Fannin's every down player, then away we go. He's going to be great for fantasy. So I like him all season. My only issue is everyone's talking about him so much today, and everyone's talking about him as like, not everyone. Some people are treating him as this priority ad, and I think he's good. I think he's a better real life player than fantasy player at this current moment. So I'm not putting all my chips in the middle on Fannin and saying, hey, you're my starting tight end. I'm not doing that yet. If you can add him as a bench tight end without spending a bunch of your fab, for sure do that. I think better days ahead. And I think the people who go all in on Fannin, I think they're going to end up dropping him at some point because I think he's going to be inconsistent and they won't be able to deal with it. So I think you can get him cheaper than what you probably can get him for this week. But yeah, good player. will be relevant for fantasy. Thoughts on Bo Nix? Would you panic? This is the issue with Bo Nix. Let's look at this. I'm not panicking on him as a football player. What I don't like about Bo Nix is... Oh, am I getting the schedule wrong? I might be getting his schedule wrong with somebody. Okay, short answer. No, I'm not panicking. I was thinking the schedule is something different. Who am I thinking about? It's not Joe Burrow, is it? Not Burrow. Interesting. There's somebody's schedule I really hate, but it's not Bo Nix. So great news for Bo Nix. I think he's fine. Bo Nix is a decent football player playing under a very good head coach, playing in a scheme that is very defined. He plays the Colts this week. Colts aren't very good. He plays the Chargers. Chargers aren't outstanding. They're not terrible. That'll be a fine week, whatever. He'll be able to beat the Bengals. They're going to be able to run the football a lot against the Bengals. That's the only issue there. Eagles, we'll see where the defense is at that point. Same with the Jets. Giants, he should be able to carve up. Same with the Cowboys, I think, with how they play their defense. So, yeah. No, I am not panicking. Do I think he's going to be this high volume passer where he's going to win you weeks? No. I think he's going to be incredibly steady the entire way. I would predict like he's quarterback 12 or higher, like between quarterback 5 and 12, maybe in 65 to 70% of weeks. That would be my guess. I think he's going to be very steady without being incredible. Is he going to win you weeks? No. Will he lose you weeks? No. Full PPR. So Hollywood starts as my wide receiver 2 in the Pickens. It comes down to Devontae versus JCM in the flex. I'll have my Packer show tomorrow. I'll be able to talk to some people in the building, and we'll be able to get some injury stuff. So that'll be very important for Thursday. Who the Cowboys got off the top of? Not the top of my head. I'm directly looking. Giants. I would probably play Pickens. I'm probably playing Pickens. Yeah, I think JCM. I think he's going to be okay for yardage. I think his usage is going to go up this week. I think it comes down to the touchdown. So if he doesn't score a touchdown, I think Pickens is going to have enough catches and yards to outscore him. So I think that's it. If we see a number of injuries for the Packers and people actually sit out, which I don't think we will, there's a lot of people banged up on the Packers. I think most of them will go. Assuming most of them go, that's my answer. If a bunch of them are out and the Packers are panicking and have to shuffle a little bit on defense, at that point, maybe I would go JCM, but I don't think so. I need to see it again, and I need to see higher usage. Okay. We've been going for 45 minutes. Didn't even know that. Again, if you haven't looked at this notable snap counts article on flurrysports.org, very, very, very useful information for deriving value going into week 2. A lot of people will just look at box scores and make decisions based on that. I think it's much more important to look at how players were used. And even still, that doesn't tell the whole story. You got to know some of the information as well. I do have some blurbs here, but yeah, I would do that. Henry also wrote this waiver wire article. So if you're tuning in late, or if you want to see his thoughts in greater detail, definitely check this article out. His receivers he wrote up were Hollywood Brown, Cedric Tillman, Quentin Johnston. So That's very fair. That's very fair. He didn't write up Booty. I do think Booty's behind those three, probably. He's close with Tillman. Juju is in that conversation if Worthy's out. But yeah. Tight ends. So tight ends, obviously, this is a lot of people are panicking. We got George Kittle on IR. Bowers should play, but injury status is shitty. Ingram got hurt and wasn't great. I feel like I'm missing another tight end, but maybe I'm not. I don't know. But he wrote up Brenton Strange, which I like. He must listen to me. And Juwan Johnson. Juwan Johnson's probably the priority ad for most people this week at the position. And it makes sense, right? Spencer Rattler is not a good quarterback, so he is going to pepper the easy throw. He's going to pepper the big body with targets. He's going to pepper one of the few people with talent with targets. Juwan Johnson fits the bill for all of those. They just paid him. He's going to be on the field a bunch, and it makes a lot of sense. Again, Henry says right here, tight end with the most targets in week 1. And yeah, do I think he's going to lead week 2 in targets? Probably not. Maybe that's a little fluky, but I think he's going to be near the top. I think he's going to see a lot of targets. So, especially with the tight end position, look at snaps, look at targets, look at red zone usage. Those 3 things, that'll help you out quite a bit. And if you are a member, you will get my opportunity index starting next week. And that'll break down all of those things, and that'll help you out a shit ton. Yeah, Juwan Johnson, good ad, good replacement for a bunch of these tight ends. Brenton Strange, he was good last year without Ingram, and he's going to be used. So, do I think it's going to be consistent? Maybe not, but he's going to be a pretty decent fantasy tight end when it's all said and done, most likely. If there's questions in the chat, I'll get to them in a second. I'm not looking at that page. But let's look at ownership here. Kincaid. Again, I'm not a Kincaid guy. If you have him, definitely look to trade him, in my opinion, before people find out he's inconsistent. And if I'm wrong, is what it is. Dallas Goedert. I don't think you need to hit the panic button on Dallas Goedert. I don't know why. Everyone's panicking about him. I don't get it. I'd rather own Dallas Goedert than Loveland. I'd rather own him over Tucker Kraft. I'd rather own him over Ingram. Potentially, he's neck and neck with Mark Andrews. I hate Mark Andrews. Maybe that's why. But if you need a tight end, man, why are we passing over these veterans? Henry didn't write about these guys either. Zach Ertz is going to be one of the best tight ends this entire season. Spoiler. 3 for 26 and a touchdown in a game where they didn't really have to throw. Zach Ertz is going to be one of the best tight ends this season. He just is. I believe 68% of his catches last year were either for a touchdown or a first down, something like that, high 60s. He's just used a ton. He's one of the most important features of this Washington offense. He's going to be good. And then Hunter Henry, does ESPN have snap percentage here? They don't. So let's go look at that. Hunter Henry played a ton. Last year, he was splitting a lot of snaps, right? 66 of the 71 snaps Hunter Henry played last week. If Hunter Henry's going to play snaps in this offense, he's going to get thrown to. Last week, that meant 4 catches, 40 yards, or 4 catches, 60 yards. Sorry, 8 targets. If Hunter Henry sees 6+ targets per game, he is going to be outstanding for fantasy. Outstanding. So if you need a fill-in, if you have George Kittle, if you have Ingram, whatever the case, you don't need to overthink it. Like, go Hunter Henry, go Zach Ertz. It's not that hard. The only alternative I would say is if you have Brock Bowers, pick up Michael Mayer. Just pick up Michael Mayer, because if Brock Bowers is out, then Michael Mayer is most likely a tight end 1. Pretty confident with that. And if Brock Bowers is not out, guess who you're starting? Nino, what's up, brother? Would it be dumb grabbing Booty with my number one priority? I got Diggs already, so it sounds ugly, but I really need a wide receiver help in Hollywood. KJ, Keenan are all NA. Would it be dumb? No. It wouldn't be dumb. Is Tillman there? I'd rather have Tillman. But then he's in that next group. Booty, Juju, Kelvin Austin. I like Kelvin Austin. Yeah, I don't think it's dumb. It would only be dumb, in my opinion, to spend a bunch of fab. If you also have to use fab, doesn't sound like you would. So if you need wide receiver help and you need to start somebody next week, go for it, brother. It's not dumb. Okay. For Kyle, Neighbors 1, Hollywood 2, Pickens 3, Flex, JCM, Devontae, Palmer, Bateman. Yeah, that's where I'm at. That's definitely where I'm at. So then look at your matchup, right? If you just need safe points, you don't need a ceiling game, you don't think, to win. JCM's for sure the pick at that point. Because, the other three we know for sure are going to be risky. If you need a ceiling game, maybe you go Devontae at that point. Would I rather have DK and JCM or Henderson and Ridley in a standard scoring league? That's a very interesting one. Not a huge Henderson guy. I think Ridley is going to be decent. He's a nice buy low guy right now. But I think DK is going to be good this year. I think him and Rodgers are going to, hear their names called together quite a bit. So I think I'd rather have DK and JCM. Should I trade Nico and Pollard for Lamb? My initial instinct was yes. If Pollard is like your running back 4, I would say for sure yes. If Pollard is like flirting with your flex spot right now, or is in your flex spot, then I don't think you do it. Like it depends on who you're replacing Pollard with. If you are downgrading by getting rid of Pollard at pretty much at any point here, then I would hold tight. There's no way. I hope, knock on wood, there's no way Nico's that bad again. There can't be any way. Do I think the Texans are outstanding? Absolutely not. But Nico should be much better than that. I think CD's safe. I think CD's great. I just think Pollard's pretty good. So I don't think you need to downgrade at Pollard. So you have Bijan, Bucky, and Hampton, and ETN. Okay. This is what I would do, if possible. Could you trade Nico and ETN for Lamb and something else pretty? I think I'd prefer to do that, just because I think ETN's value is higher than what his real fantasy value is at this point. Whereas Pollard's going to be steady the entire year. Pollard just is what he is. So I think, yes, I would do that trade. But I think there's a better trade to be made, if that makes sense. Because I think there's no doubt you're giving up more value than what you're getting. But I think Lamb's better than Nico. And you don't really get much worse by getting rid of Pollard, right? That's the whole thing. I would still try to squeeze as much value out as possible, but I don't hate the trade. Mario, full PPR. I need a wide receiver 2. I have Golden, Cedric Tillman, and Wandale. Who the Browns play? I think Wandale is my answer. These are not my rankings. I have to set them yet. So do not take these for reality. My rankings will be out on flurrysports.org tomorrow. Oh, these are draft rankings. Regardless, obviously you're seeing right now, these are not my actual rankings. So do not assume these are true. I just want to know who the Browns play. Browns play the Ravens. Not scary, not easy. Golden, I don't really want to play yet. And he needs to prove it multiple weeks in a row with snap count. And then the Giants play somebody bad, somebody good, I think. Giants play Dallas. I would go Tillman. In order, it's Tillman, Robinson, and Golden for me, just because I need to see Golden play more snaps. And is he going to be unleashed on a short week in week 2? Probably not. We'll see. He's a good player, but he has to prove it. Plus, he has the whole Jordan Love effect as well. Jordan Love's not a very good football player. He just got done playing his best game, in my opinion. But he still had some Jordan Love moments in there. So we will see. But yeah, I would go Tillman. He's solid with good quarterback play. And is there a better quarterback in the NFL than Joe Flacco? I'm not sure. Get your final questions in here. My beer's about gone, which means the stream is about done. Unfortunately. Sad times. Any other players to talk about? Looking at the tight ends here just to see if there's any value guys to pick up. Again, Ertz is 40%. Jonnu's 22. I mean, he's fine. Strange is 20%. We have no idea what Darren Waller is going to be, but you probably don't need to go there. Juwan Johnson, 1.3%. I mean, go ahead. Go get him. Fannin, less than 1%. Go get him. Is Taysom close? No, he's on the pup. Okay. Mayer, if Brock is going to be out, if you're a Brock Bowers owner and you have an empty bench spot, I'm picking up Michael Mayer. That would be my priority this week. I am making sure I have the tight end one for the Raiders in week 2. But yeah, otherwise, I don't know. AJ Barner is going to be, he's going to have a chance at a touchdown every single week based on the snaps he plays, but you're not going to own him. Same with Dawson Knox. Yeah. That's about it. After hearing your take on Ertz, would you rather have him over Fannin? Right now, yeah. Yeah, I love Zach Ertz. He's just steady, man. Like, he's going to be good. We know the Packers can't cover tight ends. They're fucking dumb. So yeah, I think I'd rather have Zach Ertz over Fannin. I mean, we're talking about this is the situation. Zach Ertz is high floor, low ceiling, and Fannin is high ceiling, low floor. Fannin could put up duds. Zach Ertz is going to be steady the entire way through and most likely finish as a top 12 tight end once again. If you think you just need your tight end to not lose you a week, Zach Ertz is going to do that. Fannin, we don't know. We really don't know. He is basically operating as the wide receiver 4 there, or wide receiver 3 there. But what does that mean? Jerry Jeudy's ahead of him. Cedric Tillman, I think, could be hand in hand. We'll see. David Njoku is probably ahead of him right now in terms of the pecking order of where the throws go. So, do you want the, at best, number 3 pass catcher on the Browns over the number 3 pass catcher on the Commanders? I think that's a fair way to compare it. Plus, Zach Ertz is just, he's been there, done that. So, low floor, high ceiling, or high ceiling, low floor. I think I said the same thing twice. But you understand what I mean. Risky or not? High risk, high reward, or the guy you know who he is? Does he have his... I mean, what did he finish with last year? He was so solid. $91 targets, most since what, 2021? Yeah. 654, 7 touchdowns, 38 first downs. That was ridiculous. He's good. He's good. And I think the Washington offense could potentially be better this year. If they're better this year, then they're in scoring position more, which means his touchdowns could go up more, which means he could tie or set a career high at the age of potentially 35. That's kind of fun. Just noticed I wasn't showing you my tab whatsoever that I was highlighting, but I think it described it good enough. We're really killing the stream today. We're doing a good job. Okay. Final call for questions while I do some plugs. Let you know what's going on. If you want to become a member, you can join a group chat with me. You can get access to all my in-season stats, which come next week. You see that huge snap count article with analysis and all of that. It was free this week. It's really cool, really nice. Next week, that's not going to be the case, though. So if you really like that, if it's really useful for you, definitely become a member. Becoming a member is, it's going to help you win your league. It costs one coffee per month. If you want to give up one coffee per month, $5, that's all it takes to win your fantasy league. Or you can get it for even less than that, $35 for a year. And if you become a subscriber, a member for a year, then it comes with perks that we don't even know about yet. But it also for sure comes with next season's draft kit. Now it'll pay for itself. If you didn't get the draft kit this year, it was 32 pages of gold. It helped a lot of people. Very good draft kit. So definitely become a member and remember the show schedule. So Monday afternoon, we got our fantasy stream that I am just sort of going over the injury news, the fantasy news, pickups, doing basically everything, a nice little weekend catch up. Tuesdays, right now, tonight, we're living it. We got the we got the waiver wire ad drop show. On Wednesdays, right here, we have Lombardi Sweep. It's a Green Bay Packers show. Not fantasy, not betting, more of just the sports, just the fantasy, or just the Packers that we're talking about. But a lot of good insights, good nuggets based on that stuff. And then Thursday night, an hour before Thursday night kickoff, I will set my rankings, and then we're going live. That'll be with myself, with Luke, with Trevor, and we're answering your start-sit questions all the way up until lock. We're going over news. Maybe we'll talk a little bit about DFS, player props, all kinds of stuff like that for the Thursday night game. That's a fun show. That's a fun one to definitely tune in for. And then if you have any suggestions, anything you want to see, whether it be a stream, a standalone video, an article, please let me know. If you are a member, want to become a member, and there's something you want specifically as a member, whether it's private streams, just members only content, specific stats, specific analysis, let me know. I really want this to be the best fantasy community here this season. I want to help you win your leagues. I want to foster what the old fantasy community on Twitter used to be. It used to be a fun, cool place, and I want to build that up here while also helping you win your leagues. So thanks for hanging out. Thanks for all the comments, all the questions. If you're on YouTube, definitely subscribe. Leave a comment once this is done. If you have questions, I'll definitely jump in and answer them. But if you want to just leave a comment about your favorite cereal, anything, you know what I mean? Anything random, it's good for the algorithm. So leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow night for Lombardi Sweep.